Ladies and gentlemen, it is round one of the ATK Mercedes-Benz Pro Series, and we are at the famous, some might say infamous, Imola circuit today, a winding, tricky piece of tarmac all the way out in Italy. And if you want to get to know this circuit a bit better, check out Jordan Sheddett's lap guide, which is on YouTube at the moment. And it will give you an idea of how frightening the circuit is in so many ways. It's the kind of places where many mistakes happen, but we'll talk more about that later. First, let's get into this. This is the first round of the ATK Mercedes-Benz Pro Series. And last year's season is anything to go by. This is going to be an absolute cracker as we head now into the Pro Division. Now, this event is partnered with Kailami 9 Hour and Motorsport South Africa, which means that we are officially sanctioned by Motorsport Body of South Africa. So this is the real deal, folks. And speaking of real deal, we've got Marius Roberts in the commentary booth with me today. Welcome, Marius. Welcome back. Marius,
I am super excited to not only be back for a second round. Last year, obviously, first time for me getting involved in sim racing.
Yes.
But like you said, what a fantastic season last year was. And I think this is going to be bigger and better, having a manufacturer like Mercedes-Benz coming on board, just to further validate it. As you said, Motorsport South Africa endorsing it. We really are on the hunt to crown the very, very best. And I think there was a lot of learnings from last year. I mean, last year was a really long year. Now we've got 6 action-packed rounds. But you've summed it up beautifully, talking Imola right in the start. What I like this year is that we're going to a couple of different circuits. And I know ACC have opened up these circuits this year. And I'm glad that as the organizers, we're going to these tracks because they're different. We've got a couple of rounds in the UK, Brands Hatch and those type of places. But Imola is just such an unbelievable circuit. And, I went on board and I watched that lap with Jordan. And you realize this track has been slowed down. I mean, after so many near-death incidents through Tamburello Curve, they've gone and dumped in a couple of chicanes after that.
That used to be flat out.
Big time. But I mean, there are 2 big chicane areas that have been added, one that's been kind of slowed down a little bit. So they've really made an effort to slow the guys down. You realize, man, the tracks they built in the old days, the Oaks only knew one way, and that was flat out. But it makes it very, very technical because I think, there are a lot of cars that are going to work really well on the fast, sweeping nature of the circuit. But then you've still got to be able to get cars to rotate through these chicanes. And you know what a chicane means? You've got to take some curb. So how well have you set your car to ride the curb? So I think it's going to be cracker. And I love the fact that last year, because of COVID, Formula One actually ended up going back to Imola because they needed to fill up their calendar, and it was fantastic to see that level of racing back at a true classic racetrack.
And it certainly is a true classic circuit. I'm looking at the track map at the moment, down the main straight into the old Tamburello, and as I was talking about Jordan's lap earlier on, I mean, you've got to grab those curbs. And you were mentioning now that the guy who's going to grab the curbs the most, what's going to happen. And the Mercedes-Benz, they've always been good at jumping those curbs. They've always been good at riding those curbs. And Jordan Shedder, Jason Abschmeyer, both these guys were quick in seeding last week. And both of them are in Mercedes-Benz. Junior McCall also in a Merc. So I'll be interested to see. Will be happening in the next couple of minutes, and it will be a quick 15-minute qualifying, and then we'll be going into the 50-minute race. As you can see on the screen here now, you've got those seeding of last week, all the drivers' names over there, and some familiar names, but also, Marius, some new names on the board there.
I'm not even worried about the new names at this stage. One thing you will notice that is new is there's one Porsche. Last year it was the Porsche lineup, but we know that there have been some changes that have been brought into Assetto Corsa, and it looks like the Porsche has now been heavily penalized and restricted in a way, so it's not the vehicle of choice anymore. And you mentioned, the top runners sitting in Mercedes-Benz, Jordan obviously running in an Audi last year, Jason in a Porsche, and I mean, Mercedes-Benz couldn't have timed this thing any better coming on board as sponsors of the series when the Merc ends up being such a strong car. So you're seeing the Merc being chosen not because of the Mercedes-Benz sponsorship, but because the drivers feel this is a really good car to get good results out of. But speaking about a new name, and we mentioned it, I think 2 weeks ago when we did the seeding run, Sean Stratham out of nowhere in a car that I've loved the look of, but we don't see too much of it running in a set of course is a Honda NSX. So really keen to see what Sean does. He's obviously got out and out pace, but now it starts turning into how much racecraft has he got, because as we know, there have been some regulation changes this year too compared to last year in terms of the guys having to make a compulsory fuel stop. So it really is going to change things up big time. Nice to see a lot of guys have stuck with the Bentleys, a couple of Ferraris. The Ferrari drivers should feel they've got a good shout here, because this, in theory, is Ferrari's home circuit. The circuit's obviously named after Dino Ferrari. We obviously call it Imola, but if you go back to the history of it, but I still find that quite funny because it's not far from Bologna, which is the home of Lamborghini. So we've got one Lamborghini in the lineup, a couple of Ferraris. So it's a real nice spread of talent. And like you said, names we've seen last year, but a couple of new names like Tristan de Nobrega. I haven't seen him before. Dwayne Hall, I don't recall from last year. Tariq Adam is somebody that's fairly new for me, but I know he's teamed up with a couple of guys that you will know very well in terms of Daniel Rowe. I think they teammates. So nice to have a real racing driver. When I say real, Daniel Rowe, obviously Volkswagen Works driver. So nice to have him doing what he does on the sim side as well, because they're actually super accomplished racing online as well.
Daniel Rowe, of course, they're in the top 10. I mean, surprising stuff. He came out of nowhere, and we knew that he would perform well, but how well he would perform, especially as the guys that have been doing this for an entire season. Another person that we're going to be missing today, unfortunately, is Ellery Ensslin. I was really looking forward to seeing how he was going to do in the 888 Mercedes-Benz. Junior McCall.
And I see mentions there as well. Yeah, I see he's on the list, but if I looked at what we were given a little bit earlier, there was that Bash wasn't. Yeah, he's not going to be racing today, which he's marked himself as absent, which is a real pity, because Bashir was one of our top 3 last year, if you remember, race after race, super consistent. So it's a pity we're not going to see them. Because you do want to, in my opinion, start the season off with a cracker opener. So yeah, we'll obviously have to wait to see the next round how those guys perform. But I think we're going to be in for some fantastic racing. The track certainly lends itself to that. And I'm just really keen to see how the drivers figure out the strategy now, because things are going to be very, very different in terms of the tyre wear, the fuel stop. And obviously, you now know it's not going to come into play at this opening round, but from round 2, there's success ballast. And I was actually having a chat to Daniel Rowe, and he was saying to me he's been playing in another format where success ballast is crucial, and they've actually gone and they've won with their teammates in that series. So, you know, him and his team are pretty used to, him and Anna Fasahi and Tariq Adams are used to the success ballast racing format. So these are guys that come with a bit of experience as well. So them and their hybrid academy, be quite interesting to see how they go. But obviously this opening round, no success ballast, but watch the games start happening further on into the season when guys start thinking, do I want to win, or am I happy with a second? Because we're thinking about the weight effect on the car.
I love it. I love when there are extra variables thrown into motorsport. I mean, it's obviously about who's the fastest on circuit, but sometimes, you know, you want to mix it up a little bit, and motorsport is a spectator sport as well, and we want to put on a show. And it's always exciting for me whether I'm watching racing at the circuit or watching racing in the Pro Series. It's always exciting for me when there are extra variables thrown in to make things exciting. And the drivers get upset, and I've been on that side of the fence. But as a fan of the sport, I don't care. I want to see good racing. And if the success ballast brings the good racing and we get those extra tactics and another level of tactics, it gets me excited, man.
Well, look, I mean, if you go and look at the Intercontinental GT Challenge, I mean, they're well known for pioneering the balance of performance. And that works really well. I mean, they now literally sit in their little office. All the cars are linked via the computer system. And because they're doing so many races in so many different markets with all of the brands, they end up working out with what is the best way to ensure that everyone is running as close as possible, so that the spectators end up with a good result at the end of the day, that you don't have, like we've seen in Formula 1 for so long, the guy with the most budget runs away with it. And that is why for me GT3 racing has been so exciting, and especially the endurance racing, because of stuff like that. So we also bringing in success ballast, which a lot of formulas run with, and I think it's great. It's not a gimmick. It's not mucking around. These are things that have been done in the real racing scenario, just to ensure that people don't run away with it. And I think it's crucial, especially with 6 rounds, that you keep things as restricted from the beginning, so you've got good racing all the way through. Some guy gets 2 or 3 good races in, and basically the championship is decided. So I think this is super exciting, and it's just something for the guys to grow in the real sport of sim racing. You know, it isn't a game anymore, and these are the sort of things that happen in real racing, so the guys need to adapt to that. And I'm also expecting a bit of team strategy. You know, I started looking through like White Rabbit Gaming. You know, Jason's racing in the Merc, but Bruno Cadillo, who did so well in the Merc last year, is in a McLaren. Now, the guys have a choice halfway through the season to change cars, so they can get into another. So immediately I start thinking, well, are the guys sitting and having a chat to each other and saying, okay, you run this car, I run that car, and then we've got data, so we know if we need to make a change midway through, is that the right car for us to change to? So I see it's the same thing. Daniel said, you know, he's obviously stuck with Bentley because it's part of the VW group, but you know, his teammates aren't running the Bentley. So for me, there's now some data that can be shared, because a lot of these guys are running in teams. And when we were chatting with the Gran Turismo guys, they were talking about the team structures that are in place, where guys are now there from a technical perspective, like you would have on the pit wall, to call strategy on when do you pit, when's the optimal time, and that guys have actually built programs that they can crunch the numbers and get spat out with, now's a good time for you to pit type of thing. So there's not only the development of the racing drivers in the sim world, but also the race engineering side in a set of course, and I think it's unbelievable.
As we look at the Pro Division group over here, this is our top class of drivers in the Pro Series, and I'm also just having a glance at the chat. Keep those chats coming, guys. We'll be doing some shout outs. You got Robert McCall, of course, Senior McCall, in the chat box over there. Always involved, always monitoring the boys, making sure the guys are sorted out, hydrated at home, I'm sure. But Junior McCall and Morgan McCall, obviously 2 guys to watch. Junior McCall right on top in 4th position in seeding last week, Marius, or a couple of weeks ago. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, listen, we saw some real potential out of them last year. I mean, we spoke about it at that seeding run a few weeks back, Ernest, how it's such a feel-good story with Junior and Morgan sharing a wheel at the beginning of the Pro Series last year, and ending up getting to a position where now they each were set up, because obviously racing is part of the ATK team, and now you start looking at that development. So Junior, unbelievable pace, obviously a change for him from the Porsche to the Mercedes-Benz, but it's clearly a setup that he's happy with and he feels quite confident about. But like we've seen, it's good to show early pace in running, but it's still about the race. And a 50-minute race, anything can happen, usually does. There's going to be a lot of new stuff. I know the guys would have been running simulation runs, but how's the car going to survive the tires? What's tire wear going to be like? I don't expect this to be a high degradation track because of the fast-flowing nature, but those chicanes do involve stopping and turning. So it'll be interesting to see how these cars wear tires. We know generally the Bentley's been pretty good running on those tires as well. And chatting to Daniel, he said Bentley's not bad, and he actually said the Aston Martin should perform quite well here. And if I looked down the list, we've got Bernard King that's in an Aston, and I think that's the only guy. Yeah, there were a couple of others that were running it in the Pro-Ams. But yeah, interesting spread of cars, some really talented guys, and I think we'll have a very interesting race. I'm a fan of these old circuit layouts. You know, we're not going to the computer-generated Paul Ricard crap. We're actually going to proper circuits where it really does challenge the driver. There's no exceeding track limits here, because you compromise the minute you do. You're either in a concrete wall or you're in the grass. So there's no shopping arena, play area where you're tempted to. I know the game obviously issues warnings and restrictions and penalizes you eventually, but in the real world, you're never going to find yourself out there. So this is a real committed circuit, a lot like the old Kyalami, where if you have it set up right, I know Jordan was talking about how important the exit out of these chicanes are, because you've got long runs on straights. So getting your drive out of those corners is going to be crucial. So it's a very technical track, but a track that requires a big set of brass ones.
Well, those tires certainly might be an issue, but thankfully the guys have got one mandatory pit stop. So if they need to change those tires, they can get them sorted out. Looking at the stream here again, the guys are getting quite enthusiastic here. We've got Cameron saying good luck to the pro guys. He seems to be an Aldo Bellingham supporter. And then we've got Smurfy checking in as well. Shout out to all the guys in the chat. Stay tuned because we're going to be starting the qualifying in the next minute or two. The qualifying should be starting very shortly. And then we're going to get straight into the ATK Pro Series Pro Division. And this is really it. I mean, is Jordan Shedder the real deal? You know, will Jason Abschmeyer be able to take it to him? Junior McCall, how's he going to perform? Because this is that pressure cooker situation. This isn't a hot lap. This is a 15-minute race where anything can happen. And in the words of the late Murray Walker, it usually does, as you said early on. But first, we're going to go to an ad, and then after that, we'll be right back with qualifying folks in the Mercedes-Benz ATK Pro Series. We'll see you in a couple of minutes. Straight into qualifying we go, and we're now on board with C Deploy in the Bentley. What a big imposing car, and notice the line that he takes there across the start finish line. Jordan, we saw in the preview lap, cuts it right up against that wall there, and you were mentioning earlier, Marius, that this circuit's got a lot of walls as he makes his way through that modified Tamburello curve. But the circuit's got a lot of walls in a lot of places, and that could prove tricky for some of the guys.
Yeah, I think that's what makes it such a challenging track as well, because you've got to be fully committed. They've gone and put a lot of sand traps in now as well to kind of slow the guys down if things do go wrong in the real world. Obviously, you're not going to feel the same pain or probably feel the same angst sitting in your simulator, because the blood isn't real and the damage isn't having to be paid for. But that is what I love about these old tracks. And you have a look at the curbs, you're riding a lot of curb, but there's that fine line about taking too much curb as well and unsettling the car. But it's about, on a track like this, it's about getting the car pointed straight as early as possible so you can get on the power as early as possible, because it is fast and flowing in the nature. And those chicanes can be a little bit irritating because they really do stop you, and making sure that you kind of rather go slow in and make sure you're fast out, I think is what's going to secure good lap times here. But you were talking just before the ad break, is Jordan the real deal? And having a chat with Jason Abschmeyer after the seeding run, and he was just saying he predicts no one will live with Jordan this year. Now, I don't like a guy talking himself out of the game that early on, because we haven't even got to the first round yet. But just interesting seeing a guy like Jason, who was our second fastest qualifying the seeding run, already kind of saying we're going to struggle to hang on to him. So let's have a look. No one knows, because there is now success bias, and there is the strategy of the compulsory pit stop. So it's not as cut and dried as it may have been last year. And you also saw there's Jordan played with technical issues, not technical in terms of the car packing up, but technical in terms of connectivity and being bumped out. And I mean, Eskom is doing its crap again. And that has a massive impact on how the guys get to apply their trade in the online racing arena.
It's basically the equivalent of getting a puncture or mechanical damage as you get disconnected by our very reliable South African infrastructure. So Jordan Shedder, hopefully no issues like that in the future as we go on board with him. Currently down in 14th position. He hasn't said the time yet. We saw earlier on Arno Versace going fastest with a 141, which is pretty much the pace that we saw in Pro-Am, but Jason Abschmeyer now.
But that's what I'm saying. They're second quicker than our Pro-Am guys already. So that's a really good time. But just to put this into perspective, so the lap record is held by Lewis Hamilton that he set last year in his Mercedes-Benz F1 car over 1 minute 14 odd. So you have a look, these oaks are doing 140, and you realize that's crazy fast. But I mean, in a GT3 car, this is impressive time, man.
Yeah, a GT3 car is not a slow car by any stretch, but the Formula One jump is just, that's a big, Begar's belief, because the jump is so big. Those cars carry so much speed. And I mean, look at the wings on these cars. It's not like the Mercedes is lacking any downforce as he goes through the right-hander there. Now, tight left hand over here. Junior McCall, 0.6 of a second down on Jason Abschmeyer, also in a Mercedes-Benz. We've got two McLarens in the top four, under Fusaki in second position, with Adam in fourth. And Charles Wilkin getting into the mix there. Charles Wilkin jumps up into second place, did not see that coming. Charles Wilkin, 0.2 of a second down. Junior McCall into second as well, 1/10 of a second down, or thereabouts. Things are heating up here. Some old names, some new names, spicing things up nice.
Well, that's what's cool though, because I mean, it's only a 15-minute qualifying session, so everyone's kind of got their eye now, and they're getting themselves nicely prepped. So you'll start seeing with 9 minutes to go, just under that, the lap times are going to start dropping hard and fast. And you know, a couple of the guys might hold back, like Jordan sitting way down there. We know he'll probably take a lap or two, let the guys get themselves comfortable, and then he'll just come and smash probably a 39 something. But I think that's probably quite achievable around the circuit. A very low 40s, I'm pretty sure what Jordan will be aiming for. But yeah, Charles Wilkin, massively experienced. Interesting to see he's running a Bentley as well. Was in Porsche last year, and like I mentioned earlier, Daniel said, listen, he thinks the Bentley's going to run really well here. So it'll be interesting to see. It's a car that I think is quite stable over the curbs, and this certainly is a track with a lot of curbs that need to be taken. Jason Webb, haven't spoken about him sitting down in 12th. Also made a change from Merc to the Nissan GTR. Always nice to see a Nissan around here. So interesting to see what he can do and how he can develop that car as well.
Wow, these guys are so tightly packed together. I mean, just look at that, from first place all the way down to 20th, separated by 1.6 seconds. So absolutely nothing in it here in the top 20 of the Pro Division. Jason Abschmeyer right on top there, third sector fastest. But
there goes Jordan.
Look at that. Jordan Shedder still
39.
down first two sectors, though, ever so slightly, but first position. And Lewis, the new man on the block here. I mean, who is this guy, and how did he manage to get the third? 0.6 of a second down. Jordan Shedder in the 39s, though.
Well, that's, I mean, you know, we always talk about the commentator's curse. Well, this time it was spot on, because I said I'm expecting him to go into the 39s, give it a few laps to get everybody setting times, feeling comfortable, then he goes and slams it, and he did just that. I mean, that is an unbelievable time. So that is the benchmark for me. I'm going to put my hand up now and say I don't think anyone's going to come close to him. I think it's going to be I'll pulse it a lap. I'm making that call now. I don't think anybody else is going to get into that.
Fantastic time so far, 0.6 of a second separating him from the rest of the pack. Jason Abschmeyer now in the pit lane. Byron Lewis, I think his name is Brian Lewis, I apologize, in third position there in the Mercedes-Benz. Charles Wilkin down in fourth. Morgan McCall in fifth place. Junior McCall in sixth. And some brotherly love happening here with both brothers now 5 and 6 respectively.
Yeah, listen, I'd love to be in the McCall household right now, because I mean, Dad's got it the toughest. Because I mean, who does he cheer? Well, obviously both of them, and I think that at the end of the day is how you want to ensure a happy and healthy McCall household. Is to make sure that you're cheering both sides.
As the favorite kid in the family, everybody's got a favorite. You've got to choose.
That'd be a good interview with the old man to say, so who is your favorite? Put him on the spot, put him under pressure.
I think, knowing him, I think the answer would be the one who gets the best result. So these guys are going to have to fight it out. They're going to have to fight it out. But it's so healthy, you know. They say that in families where there are brothers, and you know, bigger brother, little brother, the competition gets built into them, because that competition starts at an early age. They're always fighting to see who gets the last ice cream bowl, or whatever the case may be. So, you know, that healthy competition breeds the best. And we can see that with all brothers.
It's funny. I mean, if you want some interesting stats, if you're going to have a look at most Olympic athletes, most of the Olympians are second kids, because they're born straight into a competitive environment. So for Junior, I mean, what's he, 12 years old, pedaling like he is now, he's kind of grown up in that environment. So it's competition in everything that they do. You're spot on. So that's why the family's performing so well. We're on board now with Jason, who obviously was our early pole sitter, but he hasn't improved on his time at all. So I wonder if he's got anything left in the reserve. But Junior, a great time, getting a lot closer to Jordan, so not too far off, just 0.3 off. So maybe he can still get into the 39s and prove me wrong. But I don't know if that's going to happen. But I like to be proven wrong. So go on, Junior.
Yeah, sometimes it's okay to be proven wrong, especially as the commentator. We don't always want to have the commentator's curse on our side. But Junior McCall doing well there in second position. I'm getting some trivia here from TK Raptor in the comments. Dries van Toor in the Audi GT3 has got the lap record at Imola with a 141.882. I don't even think he'll make the top 10 here today with these guys.
Yeah, but let's be honest. I know we get into big trouble when we sit and talk about the real world versus the racing world, and is this the game and that type of stuff. But it's also difficult to know what they're running. You can't just compare the times here with what that car would have been set up from a balance of performance perspective. But it's good insight. It's nice to know that is the time. But again, I mean, we're running according to the regulations of Assetto Corsa here, whereas they would have been running that depending on what series they were running in. There would have been certain restrictions in place then as well. But these are proper times. I mean, you're right. He wouldn't be in the top 10, and Dries van Toor, we know, can pedal an Audi. And you're not going to see any Audis being pedaled in the Pro-Am, surprisingly, because apparently the Audi hasn't been compromised too much with the new formats of the game. But no one's chosen to go that route, which is surprising.
Very strange. You're looking at the McLaren now of Arno Versaki early on. Just 0.8 of a second was in the top spot, but not so much anymore. We've got some love getting shouted out here to the Meraki guys. Also, Team Mist that Byron Lewis belongs to. The new guy on the block, Byron Lewis. I'd love to get some trivia on him over the course of this broadcast. I think I'm going to go do some research on this guy and find out. I mean, he just came out of nowhere and now currently in 4th position. Things are really getting mixed up as he bounces and crashes his way over the curve.
I'm saying, look, he's Sinister 5, so he's different. I think Mist is deploy. So I think that's who the shout out was going to in that black and white Bentley from earlier. But I haven't heard of Brian Lewis as well, which is awesome. So somebody for us to watch and go and do a bit of homework on. But certainly putting his hand up early on. I know we spoke about Sean Straden right at the beginning of the stream about how well he did in the seeding run. But obviously still down in 18th, which isn't bad at all in his first Pro-Am qualifying run in the ATK Pro Series. But also running the only Honda in the lineup too. So everyone said the Honda's maybe not such a good car, and we were impressed with what we saw in the seeding runs, but maybe this is the true nature of the pace of the car now, as opposed to what Sean's ability is.
Yeah, Jordan Shedid going a little bit faster there. Now 0.4 of a second, or just under 0.5 of a second, in fact, ahead of Junior McCall with just 1 minute and 50 seconds left. It's now all to play for Leslie Oliphant in 5th place, Charles Wilkin down in 6th. Morgan in 7th, Grobler in 8th in the first and only Ferrari that I'm seeing in the top 20 at the moment. Out of Sachi in 9th, as mentioned, and Heineke rounding off the top 10. He'll be happy with that. Heineke there in the Bentley, making up the top 10. Not too shabby so far. Some familiar names further down. Benjamin Lodge 23rd, Aldo Belligan 22nd, Noor Hendricks in 21st, Jason Webb in the Nissan. I'm still shocked as to why he didn't take the Mercedes-Benz. I was really looking forward to seeing him perform this year in the Merc. Could that be an opportunity missed there?
Well, I mean, the main guy I want to talk about is Bruno Cadilla. I mean, he was the guy that we were raving about last year because he was in the car that was not the car to be racing in, and he was outperforming what was possible in the Merc last season. So now when they've got the latest Evo GT3 version of the Merc AMG, it's just, I'm surprised that he's gone and made that change, because I just thought he would have just. But again, we don't know what the car's like from a driving perspective.
Charles Wilkin goes third there.
Driving style.
Sorry to interrupt you there, Marius. Charles Wilkin, our good friend Charles, in 3rd position, and that's a shattering time from him. I mean, in the Bentley, Daniel Rowe, further down in Daniel Rowe, also in a Bentley. So well done to Paul Wilkin there in the first of the Bentleys. Once again, cutting back to the stream with just 15 seconds left. The guys are giving some mega shout outs here. I see the Milk E-Juice guys also in the stream. So thanks for joining us and watching the ATK Pro Series powered by Mercedes-Benz. And Mercedes-Benz making up top two of the front row, an all Mercedes front row as we go into the wait time.
It sounds like Formula One all over again. But Daniel was saying to me, he literally was just getting back from Cape Town. Obviously, the opening round of the Extreme Festival happened your neck of the woods at Killarney. So he literally just got back to PE and was hopping into his rig. So he didn't have time to get things set up. So that just shows the skill of the man. He was quite far down, but when he needed to put a lap time up, I think he'll be happy to be in the top 10 because he thinks there's good race pace in this Bentley, and we've seen that with Charles in third as well. And I just have to remind everyone, we now have compulsory pit stops, so it's going to really get interesting for us as commentators and drivers to make the call. When do you pit? And where do you feed back out into the pack? So it's going to be very interesting.
Oh, very exciting stuff. You're on board with Daniel Rowe in 8th position, coming towards the finish line now. Let's see if he can improve on that time. Daniel Rowe in 8th place, stays in 8th place as he slows the car down there. And so far, so good for qualifying. I think some interesting results. Jordan Sheddett's still out and about. Also coming across the finish line here, 139.8 to beat for Jordan. His own time. Oh, 139.7 for Jordan Shedder. Goes even faster still, separating himself by half a second. Deploy now in the position. As he crosses the line, Deploy, will he improve that position? Goes up to 13th, does Deploy, and that's it from us for qualifying, folks. Stay tuned for the ATK Pro Series brought to you by Mercedes-Benz after this. Yeah, so we're just waiting for the server to come up and then we'll start that race. But Jordan Shedett is indeed the real deal, at least as far as hot clapping goes. We've seen it actually in the race.
It's a proper time that I mean, like I know we made the call. Like I think he's definitely going to be in the 39s, and he is the only guy in the 39s. If you remember in the seeding run, he was also the only guy to have dipped into that benchmark time at Barcelona too. So it's like, man, yeah. But like you said, it's qualifying is one thing, the race is something else. But I think when you've got that advantage, get a clean start, let everyone battle and have their nonsense happening on behind them, and get into running a rhythm that is your rhythm. This is a rhythm circuit. So you don't want to be involved in dogfights. So I think the guys that are sitting mid-pack really going to struggle to get into rhythm because guys are dive bombing you at every chicane trying to get a pass done. Whereas if Jordan gets a clear start and can just open up a little gap, get into a rhythm around Imola, and you're fine, because I think that also helps you conserving your tires. It gives you a real clear idea of what strategy you want to run in terms of when you call your pit stop. So that'll be his goal now, is to have a clean start.
Yeah. Well, speaking of clean start, we're hopefully going to have a clean start as the racing is about to kick off. Guys doing their warm-up laps now, and it feels good to see the cars warming up again, Marius. I'm not going to lie.
I'm loving the spectators in the stands. That's my best part.
They're not getting what's there.
It is so lucky, because that is the one thing that is just so devastating. It's like seeing empty stands at all the sports games. So at least with the ATK Pro Series, we can ensure that we've got full groups of spectators watching the race at Imola, and obviously on the stream as well. So we're catering to everyone.
So speaking of spectators, we've got 56 spectators currently on the stream and growing. The guys are finding out that the Pro Series is kicking off and starting now. So that should jump up quite a bit. The guys are amped for this race. Some of the guys talking about the Pro-Am race as well. Some of the drivers from the Pro-Am race joining us now. Just happy to be watching. They're saying that it is a bit of a difficult circuit to overtake on, Marius. So what are your thoughts on that?
100%. The fast-flowing nature of the circuit is what's going to make it a really difficult overtaking spot. Even though they've got added in lots of chicanes to make it, to slow the guys down and make it safer, they're not heavy stop and turn braking positions. There's really only one or two of those on the circuit. So yeah, that's what I said. If you get a clean start and you get into your rhythm, it is hard to get past. So I can't disagree with them. It's going to be one of those type of circuits, but there's going to be lots of action mid-pack, because it is committed racing that's required here. And I think for us, we're going to be in for a real treat.
That's nice to see the ATK cars right out front there. Junior McCall in second position, and Jordan Shedid both in ATK Mercedes-Benz cars as they round the left-hander now, making their way towards the last turn. And they're going to be crossing the line very shortly, folks. We are about to go racing. We've got the cam-in-cam action going on. You're looking up from the top. Jordan Shedid right next to Junior McCall. Ladies and gentlemen, the ATK Pro Series is about to kick off as they make their way down the strip. Oh, what's happened there? So they're getting held back by Jordan Shedid. Jordan Shedid pulling back there, making sure to keep everybody behind as long as possible. The lights are still red though. As we look up at the Imola sign, Jordan Shedid on the inside there. Go. I'm sorry, Jordan Shedid on green flag racing. Jordan Shedid takes the lead with Junior McCall right behind him. Shaul Wilken in third position. Jason Abschmeyer in fourth as they go now through the chicanes. As mentioned earlier, newly developed chicanes. Jumping the curb there is Junior McCall, getting a good look at the back of Jordan Shedid. Already a gap separating the drivers there. Oh, there's some action happening in fourth and fifth place. Some positions getting shuffled. So far, no incidents that we can see. The drivers getting through cleanly through those first and second complex sections over there. Oh, bit of a touch there.
That was exactly the start that Jordan wanted. The nice thing is Junior went along with him, didn't try and get involved in trying to do anything silly. And this is good strategy from a 12-year-old, which shows how much he learned last year with all the racing that he got done. So now the two of them have opened up a clear gap to our drivers who are sitting in third, which is still Shaul Wilken and Jason. So not much has happened there. But this is what the guys wanted. Off to a clean start, settle into your rhythm and get your race done. 50 minutes is a long time, but it is going to fly by. And there's a lot of strategy to sit and consider. But good to see that we are not sitting and moaning about any incidents at this time. So I think as racing drivers, people have learned a lot. The guys have learned a lot from last year. Because as you know, on the incident reports, everything is being adjudicated like it would in the real applications. And the guys have learned. And this for me is probably the most exciting part about the start of a race at Imola with no incident.
Yeah, as the guys go through the last two 90-degree left-handers over here, we've got two
Tariq Adam that's made a dive there on deploy in the Bentley. So that's a really good looking move. Got a whole bunch of Bentleys lined up behind him as well. So yeah, I think Tariq's one of Daniel's teammates. He's running that McLaren, beautiful looking car. And I love the livery on that Bentley, that black and white stripe, looks proper. But have a look at racing. Tariq's going defensive there, but you'll have that blocked off heading into the chicane, the left-right.
I think that Bentley's going to get a lot of attention just based on how it looks. He has been now gone board with Morgan McCall in fourth position. The Bentley of Daniel Rowe there looks like it runs a little bit wide. Daniel Rowe now getting a look by Lewis Lewis having a good look there on Daniel though, but he manages to hold him off and maintain sixth position. Lewis all in the mix of things there as they go into the very tight left-hander, row down the inside, Lewis on the outside, and the action continues here as Jordan Shedid still leads us off. We're now on board with Brian Lewis, who's having a very good look in the...
Oh, there's some action at the back as they were coming out of that corner. It looked like there was some action. Just a question I was talking about Tariq, but it was actually Honor Fasaki in the McLaren battle versus the Bentley of Dupoy. But yeah, Daniel putting a lot of real racing experience in there, very crafty, making that Bentley, which is super wide already, wide on the circuit. I was saying difficult to overtake, but we've seen a couple of moves already. But I think your best chance here is going to be getting a good drive out of the corners and being able to line up, because you've got long straights. And there will be a proper drafting experience that the guys can benefit from as well. I know the Gran Turismo guys were saying that the drafting in their game is possibly over-exaggerated. So in a sense, of course, the benefit isn't quite the same. But the guys will certainly be wanting to get right on the back of the car in front of them. But what that does do is compromise tyre wear as well. So it's a tricky balance to kind of work out what's going to work best for you.
Oh, Jason Abschmeyer now getting some heat from Morgan McCall. Oh, down the outside goes Morgan McCall as they go into the first corner here. Is he going to be able to be held off by Jason Abschmeyer? Jason Abschmeyer, of course, no stranger, the White Rabbit Gaming Mercedes-Benz holding off the ATK Mercedes there. Both cars are similar livery. As we look at now, we cut to the deploy replay. And this is where all went wrong to deploy earlier on. Oh, so close there. Look at that Bentley. Oh, gives the Mercedes-Benz a touch and spins himself out. That was a little bit self-inflicted by the looks of things upon first inspection. And look at these two just going at it hammer and tongs. Morgan McCall, Jason Abschmeyer giving each other a bit of a touch there, letting him know that the ATK car is right behind. Morgan McCall going defensive everywhere, or at least Jason Abschmeyer going defensive everywhere.
But this is cool though, Ernest, because what it does, it sucks Daniel into it. So Daniel's looking up ahead and going, this is perfect. Jason's holding up Morgan, getting racing. Look at that, Daniel right onto the back of him and bringing Brian along for the ride as well. So suddenly the battle for fifth is getting super, for fourth is getting super heated. And further back is Hobler in the only Ferrari. So suddenly we've got Jason Abschmeyer, a bit of a chicane, kind of slowing the guys down. And this is what we like to see. And what was interesting though, when we saw that run over the start-finish line, was the drive out of Ravazza, which is the heaviest braking points on the circuit, and getting them out. Jason Morgan, great move. Wow. That was actually a real good switcheroo. I think he's got the pass done there as Morgan McCall. So that for me was some brilliant racing.
There was a little bit of touching there, a little bit of argy-bargy to go down the main straight now. Morgan McCall out in front. Jason Abschmeyer right in the mix with Daniel Rona having a look as well. Behind him is Lewis. Lewis trying to figure his way through the pack here. Over the curve they go. Brilliant.
Oh, and there's going to be contact here for sure. I can see this is where things start getting a little bit too heated. The guys have done well to back out of that. But that was a great switch around by Morgan. It's like Jason ran a little bit wide and he just did the undercut on him, which was fantastic. Jason did well to kind of keep that battle going, but it looked like Morgan had the better pace. And what we've seen now is the little gap that is open over Jason really. So Daniel now knows that he needs to get past Jason as quickly as possible, because have a look at the train that's forming behind him. And Brian Lewis looks super racy as well. So Daniel's definitely wanting to try and replicate what we saw Morgan do and get past Jason.
Nice to see Charles Wilkin living up to that earlier success in the beginning of last season. Didn't really get the results he wanted, but now running in third position. So let's see if he can maintain that third position as we go on board with Grobler in the lone Ferrari, at least from what I can see in the first 23 positions. Grobler now forming part of this very long train, getting held up all the way forward there by Morgan. Well, not getting held up, but led at the moment by Morgan McCall. Jason Abschmeyer, a little bit off his pace, starting to get harassed now big time with a very experienced racer, Daniel Rowe in the Bentley. Behind that, we've got Lewis, and then Grobler, as I said, we've got eyes on him in that car.
You can just imagine the circuit before all the chicanes, because the chicanes kind of do give it a bit of a Monza feel. You can imagine when the guys we've got a pit stop. So
Lewis goes in pits earlier.
He's making the call to do that pit stop early. Now, this is again clever strategy, because now you look at it, you go, so when I come out, I'm going to run my pace. So he obviously feels that he's quicker than the cars ahead of him, but he's just getting bogged down because it's difficult to overtake. blah, blah, blah. This is clever racing from my perspective. It is early, so I'm assuming he knows what his Merc can do around here in terms of tyre wear, and he's quite confident that he can make it to the end on the early pit stop. But that could be a very, very clever move from a strategy perspective.
Yeah, let's see how Lewis's race turns out when all is said and done. But it certainly isn't said and done yet. We've got 42 minutes of racing left with Jason Ashby now in 5th position. And right behind him, Daniel Rowe, who is looking very determined to get past now as we cut to Korbla in that Ferrari a little bit further back in 8th position, followed by a McLaren over there.
Yeah, that's Ono Fasahi. So that's Daniel's teammate. So he's in that McLaren right behind Korbla in the Ferrari. You know what we're going to struggle with here, though, Ernest? I don't think Assetto Corsa has allowed in their graphics for us to know who has pitted and who hasn't. Because that would be really cool if we could have access to that type of information as commentators. We were lucky because we actually saw Brian put into the pits. But it just helps in terms of knowing who's pitted and who hasn't to try and figure out where the strategy is. But obviously for a guy like Jordan Sherritt, who we haven't spoken about all because he's like 4 seconds or 3.5 seconds up ahead of Junior McCall up front, for him it's going to be easy. Daniel's going to do the same thing. Daniel also decided to pit. He's going to go mid-race, stop mid-race on his pit stop, which makes more sense. But it's the strategy we're going to see here in mid-pack. So I think Daniel has gone to cover Brian. Because Brian went on the pits, Daniel has to do the exact same thing to make sure that he keeps that position. Otherwise, the chance that he loses a spot down the line to Brian in that pit stop. So I think that's why Daniel's kind of gone in as early as he has. The Bentley, as we heard last year, I don't know about it this year, not too heavy on tyres. So I don't think we're going to see any problems with that towards the end of the race.
Yeah, if he can make his way all the way to the end of the race, he's got 40 minutes of racing left. The pit window barely opened and he was in it to win it. Jordan Sherritt now right up front with 4.4 seconds in hand. Charles Wilkin just a little bit further back from Junior McCall in 3rd position in that very nice looking British racing green Bentley over there. And British cars really do look good in that color, don't they? It just works.
It's just really cool to see that we've got Bentley still racing. You know, last year was really sad when the factory announced their withdrawal as an official team. Because there were cars that really just added such value to the circuit. So that's why you will now see people like our very own drivers, Jordan Pepper, obviously not being able to race the Bentley anymore. He's now racing in we've seen a lot of these Jules Gounon, who's now racing Mercedes-Benz, and it's sad because that car got to such a cracking start last year. If you remember, winning the opening round of the Intercontinental GP Challenge at Bathurst. So it was kind of going to be there here, and then COVID kicked in, and obviously now there's no more Bentley officially racing. But it's great that we can see them in our series, and it looks like it's a car that's going to be super consistent throughout the season. So great that we've got Bentleys and so many of them racing. I thought we'd see a few more Aston Martins. Everyone says Aston's a really good car to race, maybe a little bit down on straight line speed, but it's a pity because it's such a beautiful looking car.
Yeah, Dwayne Hall now doing his fastest lap right behind Noor Hendricks. And Noor Hendricks looks like he's feeling the pressure a little bit there. Noor Hendricks definitely feeling the pressure as Dwayne Hall setting his fastest lap time, making sure that Noor Hendricks knows that he is there. In front of that is the Milk E-Juice car of Jason Webb. Oh, look at that. Goes around the outside here. Is he going to try and make it stick? He tries to close the door. It's side-by-side stuff so far, but it does look like he's being held up at the moment, but I don't think he's going to be held up for long. They're going down into another left-hander. Will the Mercedes-Benz be able to hold him off? We've got Noor Hendricks in the Merc with Hall in the Bentley, and now Aldo Bellingham also within striking distance in that absolutely stunning Lamborghini.
What I've just had a look before we went to the split screen here. So Daniel did successfully maintain his position. But have a look at Arno Fasaki, Daniel's teammate, also chose to pit, and he's actually got the jump on Brian Moore. So that pit stop hasn't worked out for Brian because he's now looks like he's actually lost an additional position. So interesting trying to pick up what's going on down there. So we'll keep monitoring that. You look at the top, I'll try and figure out what's going on at the bottom. Because I'm assuming that a lot of those guys further down, Bruno Cadile and maybe Sean Stradham, have also pitted. So it'll be very interesting to see how that pans out a little bit later on in the race with just on 37 and a half minutes to go.
I think a lot of the guys would pit early. I know from my previous experiences that sometimes on certain circuits, the wear is not that drastic. So getting the pit stop over with is and can be a good idea. And maybe that's what the guys are trying to do. But someone that's trying to get this overtake over with certainly is Dwayne Hall in the retro redline car that they're trying to get this overtake over with Lewd Hendricks. Lewd Hendricks doing well to stay composed, but Jason Webb, the big benefactor out of all of this, as he starts to build up a little bit of a gap on 13th and 14th position. Lewd Hendricks Mercedes-Benz does seem a little bit loosey-goosey over here, so I think he's starting to definitely feel the pressure as they make their way through the left-hander now.
Yeah, you see, that's what I'm just thinking of the strategy, because obviously you get a circuit like this, which fast and flowing, not that easy to overtake. So you could be running with tyres that aren't that great and really make your car very, very difficult to pass just by putting it in the right positions on the circuit. So it is less about tyre strategy and more about track position, which is why I think we did see those early changes where guys felt they were getting bogged down. So it'll be interesting to try and pick up on someone like Daniel Rowe and just try and see where they're fitting in, because I think what he's hoping for is that he is a lot quicker than the guys that are running in 17th, 18th, 19th position.
Yes.
And I guess what would be ideal if those sort of guys also decide to start pitting, because then it just opens up a clean run for those guys. So it'll be very interesting to see. But I'm trying to pick up what the gap is now. Junior's, what is he, open 6 seconds is what Jordan Sherritt's pulled up over Junior McCall. But there's still a great race for Junior, because we're not talking about him because he's not involved in the incidents, because he's right up front. So this could be a very solid result for him. With lots of time still to go, but our top 3 really have raced off into the distance.
It's great to see. Look, I love seeing close racing, but the 3 guys in the top 3, it's nice to see them in those positions and start to separate themselves. And as a driver, sometimes you want to have that race where you just want to put your head down and do those laps. You don't always want to have a battle, especially if you've just had a season of battles behind you. So these guys settling into the rhythm, getting those podium positions, first race of the season, get a solid podium finish, and then start building from there. Side by side go the 2 Bentleys now. We've got Heineke and Patterson. Patterson last year proving himself to find lots of pace over the course of the season. But Heineke in the 96 car there holds the position of 9th place, with Patterson right behind him, T. Adam also behind him there in the mix as they go up the hill now. And look at Patterson getting real racy over here, trying to gain that position back. The 2 Bentleys looking good in those very similar colors over there, going now through the outer corner over there, going up towards the final corner. And I was checking out the onboard with Sherritt earlier on, and some of these corners are so tricky. Even Ravazzi over here, it looks like a basic 1990s sort of setup, but each of these corners threads into the next one, and it makes it so tricky to be able to thread a lap together. And we can see that by just how good Jordan Sherritt is, by separating himself from the pack really by quite a big margin. I mean, he's figured the circuit out, certainly has.
But you see the trick when we were on board, when we were watching the 2 Bentleys of Patterson and Heineke having a go. They were doing so well, leaving each other in enough space, not falling over each other, which again is massive improvement. But that all happened because one little mistake, running a little bit wide, not being able to get on the power. And that is what Jordan kept on saying in his lap. You've got to really make sure your drive out of the corners are crucial, because the drive out of the corner is usually into what is a fairly long straightaway section. So you immediately compromise. If you don't get your drive well out of that corner, you're going to be carrying that loss all the way down the long straight, and you're always going to be going defensive. And that's what we saw there. And this is kind of where we're picking up with Jason and Morgan, is where we were with the 2 Bentleys. They start that will run down to the final section of the circuit, which is like you said, it's technical. They've gone and made some changes to that chicane to straighten it up as well. Tariq Adams in back with that action now. Tariq Adams getting a lot closer to the back of Kieran Patterson, so he'll be happy that they're back in, because it's giving him a little sniff of what's going on ahead. And then just ahead of them is Nobrega and Cobra. So Cobra having a great run at Ferrari as well. And like I said earlier, this is like a home circuit for Ferrari, so he'll be happy if he can maintain his position and get a top 10 finish. It'd be awesome.
Yeah, going through those complex 90-degree corners here. It's all about getting the run into the main straight. And as we know, the most important corner on a circuit is the one before the longest straight. They now make their way down to Tamburello. Oh, into the pits goes Patterson. In front of him is the Ferrari of Formula. Oh, both of them now in the pits. And for the first time, we see the camera on the cars going to the pit lane. And that looks very cool. I don't see any mechanics out in the pit lane just yet. Probably waiting for the signal to come outside. We see, however, our GT4 Mercedes-Benz. That is, of course, our pace car hanging back in the pit lane, not being used much today, thankfully.
Am I correct? Sorry, am I correct in assuming I'm seeing a little green tick that's come up next to Daniel, Fasaki, Lewis? Is that indication they've pitted? I think it is.
No, that is. I think that's the speed of their connection. I think that's the speed. If I'm not mistaken.
No, if I'm looking next to the cars,
here we go. Yes. Yes. That is it.
I was abusing a set of course, but it looks like we now know who has pitted and who hasn't. So
there we go.
That's cool because that really helps us understand. Now, if you have a look at Daniel, he's got like 6 seconds. I'm trying to see what the gap is between him and Roger, because that then really tells you how much clean air he's got, that he can run into the car that's in front of him and really start closing that gap. Because down the line, we could end up here with 10 minutes to go.
Oh, yes.
Real fight out.
And
the problem then is that these guys are then going to be sitting on really old tyres, whereas maybe for someone like Jordan, who has obviously had a clean run out front and changed his tyres at a normal time, won't ever be a massive concern. But obviously for Daniel, he puts it, he was in about 5th or 6th position. So he's obviously hoping to get a slingshot onto the podium, be able to have a go at Charles working when Charles makes his pit stop. So that's what I'm looking at, because there's not much progress going on here. Jason and Morgan are kind of keeping each other honest. They're not really catching the cars in front of them, and they're kind of in limbo mode there. Somebody doing a great job getting out of the way. I saw some blue flags being waved, so that was good racing as well. But Jason seems to be coming back at Morgan now. He seemed to be struggling for pace early on in the race, but now it looks like he's got his set up. Maybe the car's coming to him. He's looking a lot quicker than he did earlier in the first 4 or 5 laps.
Yeah, definitely looking a lot quicker. Jason Ashmeyer now in 5th position, and we're on board with him now. Morgan McCall right in front, both cars in Mercedes-Benz, and Ashmeyer now behind McCall. Earlier we saw him doing a very good job of defending that position, but unfortunately now down in 5th position. Leslie Oliphant in 6th, and looking at to the right hand side, we can see who still needs to pit. You're right, Marius. I'm looking forward to some chaos in the last 10 to 15 minutes. It's going to be great to see the guys try and figure out that pit strategy, and then everybody coming out in the mix, and a final sprint to the finish should be in order as we go on board with Aldo Bellingham in the Raging Bull Lamborghini in 11th position.
Yeah, but things have backfired a bit. So if you have a look, Krobler and Patterson pitted now, like 2 laps ago, a lap and a half ago. Yeah. But have a look, they were behind Daniel Rowe early on in the race by like maybe 5 or 6 positions. We'll have a look now. Krobler is actually ahead of Daniel, and that's kind of spun things around a little bit. So maybe Daniel and Brian pitting as early as they did hasn't worked out, because even Arne Fasaki is ahead of Brian Lewis now. Tariq Adam, he was way behind all these guys. So this is where things are going to get quite tricky, because we thought it might have worked out for Daniel then, but now it looks like it hasn't. They actually seem to have dropped back positions. But wow, this is what's lovely for us as commentators. We just don't know, because this is new for us as well as it is for the drivers, and they don't have a whole team of people sitting there watching strategy, having a look at, well, when you do a pit stop, you're going to feed into open traffic or you're not. I mean, that is how it works on the normal pit wall. I don't think the guys have that set up, but I guarantee you by the 2nd or 3rd round they're going to.
Through Aquaminerale there.
Daniel all over the back of
all over. Oh, sinister car closing the door there, but the Bentley goes through it anyways. Still manages to hold him off now.
Listen, I mean, that for me is proper driving. We know the sensitivity with a set of course, so when you get close, it's very difficult to stay close. Obviously, in the real world, it's a little bit easier to judge those sort of things, but that was precision driving by Daniel Rowe there, not to fall over him, not to clatter him coming out of that chicane as well. So well done to both of them. Krobler also didn't try and squeeze him, just left him the space, knowing that he's obviously on the outside and gonna have to go the long way around. So it was good, clean racing, and that's what I love to see. We haven't had, I don't know what we're going to talk about tomorrow. There's been no incidents. I did see Eco's got a 5-second penalty. I don't know what he did for that, but I mean, not much incidents for us to report on at this stage.
Yeah.
In our incident report tomorrow, which is also happening just before we do the opening round, which is going to be very cool, of the Gran Turismo Sport category.
Yes.
We did the seeding run a couple of weeks back as well. They're racing at Blue Moon Bay, which is obviously Gran Turismo built circuit, and they're going to be racing on road tires. I think they're in the Merc A45, so that whole series is going to be celebrating everything that is wonderful about Mercedes-Benz. So that's going to be interesting, because that really is production car racing. Everyone's in an identical kit. So I'm looking forward to that tomorrow night as well. So put that in your diaries, listen to our incident report on live stream, and then join in for that race as well.
Jason Webb now up to 8th position there. I think he's gained a total of about 13th, 14th position. So he's looking really good at the moment. Still has to pit though. Speaking of pitting, De Nobraga's in the pit, Charles Wilkin in the pit, Leslie Oliphant also now currently in the pit lane. And now things are going to start shuffling out, Marius. I think now we're going to start seeing, you know, the guys shuffling things around. But eventually the deck will settle. And eventually we will see who stays in the front of the pack.
Yeah, well, just looking at this now, the big loser for me is Brian Lewis. Remember, he was, I think, fighting for 6th or 7th all over the back of Daniel Rowan. Look how far down he's gone and found himself now. We're actually going on board with Bruno, having a look at Lewis just ahead of him. So he's really lost touch with Daniel. So he's lost a lot of position. So that pit stop really didn't work out for him. Maybe lost his rhythm, because I think that is, you know, you're kind of in the zone, you're amped to go racing, now you have a pit stop, and now you've got to find your rhythm again. Have a look at Bruno giving him full floodlights going there. And what's for a move here? You've got a really good drive out of the corner to Bruno. We know what a good racing driver is last year. Really doing unbelievable stuff in the Merc he was in last year. This is
around the outside. They touch. The Merc gets sideways. Bruno's still in it. Well done for recovering there from both of them. Lewis recovers and maintains the position, but both of them, I'm sure, waving fists at each other.
See, he's got the undercut, so he's got a good chance that he's backed out of it, but he's gone and run wide. So that's brilliant driving by Bruno Cadile, and obviously Brian kind of, but I'm not backing out of this one. But that for me, Ernest, is fantastic racing, and I'd like to see that on an incident report, because it's not an incident. You know, going door to door and touching door to door is what racing is all about. Our second place man, Junior McCall, is in the pits at the moment. So it'd be interesting to see where he filters back out. But I mean, I think his position in second was secure. He had a good gap over Charles Wilkin. He wants to just make sure he gets ahead of Charles. So that's going to be quite a tight run. I can't see where exactly. Charles coming up to the Ravazza now. So that's quite cool. Junior should maintain that position. So nice to have that onboard graphic so we can pick up where Charles is in third place.
Exactly.
Nice to see how they feed out.
Morgan McCall now currently ahead of Charles, but that should change shortly. Charles, as we said earlier, on a third place man, podium finisher. He should jump up quite a bit now as he crosses the start-finish line in 12th position, up into 10th.
Still a long way to go.
So Wilkin up into 10th, and he's going to be 8th is Junior McCall. So the two of them still separated. Junior's still up front by quite a bit. So those second and third place guys have stayed pretty much the same with Jordan Shedder now. Actually, still lots of time in hand. He's in the pits at the moment, but he's got lots of time in hand at the moment. These guys need to make it all the way around the circuit to try and catch up with Jordan Shedder, our first place man.
But have a look at this. Our big winner here is Morgan McCall, because if you remember, he was in a battle with Jason Abschmeyer, and now he's come out what essentially is in third position. Junior, if you look at that, Junior's
Morgan's in front of Wilkin.
Exactly. So he's jumped up 2 positions with that pit stop. So if you look at that now, second position overall at the moment is Junior McCall. Third is his brother Morgan. Fourth is Wilkin. Jason has kind of stayed in the same position in fifth. So he's kind of lost out there. If you remember, he was all over the back of Morgan. But this is a really good battle. Charles Wilkin obviously not happy about that. So he's putting Morgan under lots of pressure. Bentley versus Mercedes-Benz. So this is going to be interesting to see. Let's hope they keep it neat and tight.
Look at that.
Good.
He just jumped straight over those curves, and when he did, managed to jump a meter or 2 ahead. So Morgan McCall, full commitment, full send through that chicane over there, going through the last section. Now onto the main straight they go. Morgan McCall currently leading Charles Wilkin, and we know Charles Wilkin gets frustrated. We know Charles Wilkin likes to pressure the guys in front. He's going to want to make a statement here. He's going to want to get that third position back. But there's still plenty racing to go. There's still 23 minutes of racing to go, 23 minutes to secure that podium. There's nobody else behind him, I don't think, or not anywhere nearby. So I think they should be fine. He doesn't need to rush this move, Marcus.
It was actually quite cool to see, because that Variante Alto is one of the other corners that were changed as well. It actually tightened the chicane to slow things down, because the guys were having a crazy mad run down the hill. So that was why there were big curves there. They reduced the size of the curves as well. So, Sean making full use of that and cutting those curves properly. Maybe with the old layout he wouldn't have been able to have done that. But really, really good racing. He's all over the back of Morgan again. So he'll be a little bit frustrated here, because he pitted when he did. He had a good, well-consolidated third position with nobody around him, no one putting pressure on him. And all of a sudden, Charles found himself in the battle for that final podium position. So, lots to shout for. So there you can see Jordan's done his pit stop. So he's lying currently fourth on track, but definitely first overall as we go on board with him. And he's got a massive, massive gap of 14 seconds over Junior. Sure. So before the pit stop, he was 6 seconds ahead. Now he's 14. So he's obviously threaded this thing perfectly. Come out with, have a look, not a car around him, so he can put some good lap times down, whereas Junior came right into the battle with his brother. So it's about when do you make your pit stop and knowing when you're going to filter out. I don't know how Assetto Corsa works. Ernest, maybe how long are they in pit for the tyre change?
It's quite a while. It's been a while since I've done the pit stops, to be honest with you, but it does take a lot of time. You've got to basically sit there. About 30 seconds, you've got to sit there and wait. The computer does the changes. The guys aren't necessarily going to throw fuel in, but they do have to change tires. So they've got to wait for the tire change to happen. Some of them might throw in fuel based on fuel strategy, but I think the best way to do it is just to have all the fuel in the car and just change the tires and then get going.
Well, look, they don't have to fuel. So that was what my understanding was. It was just, I think it was just a tire change. We might be wrong. I'm not sure somebody will tell us if we are. Getting at is the guys will have people now sitting there and saying to them, okay, looking like I'm doing as a commentator, as a good run that Brian Lewis is having on deploy over here. But he's obviously got the defensive line going through the backside of it. But this is what you'll have your mates doing now, is having a look at the timing sheets and saying, right, if you pit now, there's a window that you can thread in where there's no traffic, because the pit stop's going to 50 seconds or whatever it might be. That is the strategy that I'm talking about, that these guys need to start having people on the armchairs around them that are kind of feeding them this information on the chats or whatever it is, or don't, because that is the difference. Put it the wrong time and you end up coming out with the back markers and it slows you down and suddenly you compromise at the end. And that I think is what we've seen. So some guys in that early pit stops haven't actually gained any time, they've lost. And then someone like Jordan, who's just absolutely aced it and actually come out off his pit stop with having gained 5 seconds. Massive.
That's really strange. I've just got confirmation now from the guys in the stream that the fuel doesn't add any or much time to the pit stop time. As we look at Jason Weber was leading early on in that Nissan. Where will he come out in the GTR? He was leading early on. But I think
he was sitting before his pit stop. He was sitting around about 15th, 16th position, if I remember correctly.
He worked his way up to 11th at one stage. I mean, he gained about 11 positions in the race as well.
But he's also gaining positions because the guys are pitting. So they're not real positions. So I'm thinking before the pre-pit stops, before the first pit stop happened, that's where he was sitting. He was around about 15th. So we used to see where he filters in, and he's coming back on track 97. So still dropping, so he's still in pit. So let's see. He might have gained a position or two, which is cool. But I don't know if somebody on the stream can just tell us exactly what the pit stop time is that the guys are sitting there. It'll be very interesting to know, because I think this is going to change a lot of strategies going forward in the next rounds.
Yeah, no time added confirmed when adding fuel. So I think it's how fast the guys go into the pit lane. Because sometimes with the pit entrance also, you want to try and bomb it into the pit entrance and get a nice exit out as well. But certain drivers are just good at maximizing the pit stop. Certain drivers, clearly Jordan Sherritt was one of those guys. He's basically in first place at the moment. Eco having a bit of an incident earlier on. Currently in the pits, he gets 5-second penalty as well for his efforts. Quade Claessen's now also in second position. But as we said, Jordan Sherritt in third on circuit, but basically first position. Jason Gray, one of our racers in the chat, says that the pit stop typically takes around 30 seconds.
Cool. Thanks for that, Jason. A guy that would be nice to see him racing in the pros as well. We saw a lot of him last year. I think it was, if I remember, racing in an Audi. So it'd be nice to see Jason in the pros. Just something to remember here as well. If the three worst performing pro drivers and the 3 best performing pro-am drivers have a switcheroo, if I remember correctly, Ernest. So we're keeping our drivers really, really committed and hungry for each round. So there's a lot to play for our pro-am and pro drivers. You want to make sure you're not in the bottom 3. But you watch any motor racing, when you know you're going to make your pit stop, what is crucial is to absolutely ace that lap into the pits, and then to be able on cold tires to absolutely nail a lap. And that is the big difference between the really exceptional drivers and the guys that kind of sit in mid-pack. So that might also be a case of Jordan just being able to find the limits, knowing what he can do on a fresh set of rubber straight out of the pits, and that makes a massive difference.
Yeah, Jordan Shedid, the man to beat now. Jordan Shedid, the man to beat. As we go on board with Craig Eacoat, it looks like he managed to get that 5-second penalty sorted out in the pits. Daniel Rowe currently in 9th position in the Bentley, and getting harassed by Kieran Patterson right behind him in another Bentley as well. Kieran Patterson really doing well over the course of the season last year, and now becoming a firm favourite in the top 10. Well done to him.
Yeah, he had some great results. Remember, he showed fantastic pace, but then he also made a couple of silly little mistakes that ended up costing him big time. But he's certainly looking a lot more composed, and he looks very comfortable in his Bentley. And this is a great little battle that we're going with, probably a lone Ferrari. So I feel the pressure of the 2 Bentleys behind him. Daniel Rowe, man with tons of experience, not only in the world of real world of racing, but also online. Daniel's been really nailing it with his team, winning a lot of other series that they've been competing in. So he's putting in his hours, because obviously last year was a tough year for them with real racing, and he certainly kept himself sharp in the online world. So nice to have him joining us in the ATK Pro Series as well. And this is a good battle to watch, because just behind that is Heineke in the other Bentley. So it's 3 Bentleys putting the lone Ferrari under massive pressure. Great to see.
Yeah, Bentley in 8th, 9th and 10th position. And again, it's nice to see that these guys are able to make these cars work. It's nice to see different cars on the circuit as well. And I know that some of the guys are saying that Jason Webb, for me personally, I've got a personal relationship with Jason. I want to see him do well. So for me, I know that there are a lot of Mercedes-Benz on the grid, and I know that it's nice to try another car, but certainly you want to try the most competitive car, and it's nice to see the Bentleys also being competitive here today, with Charles Walker now in 4th place, just behind Morgan McCall. Could the McCalls, though, have a top 3 and 2 finish? Both of them on the podium, that would be something else.
Can you imagine the celebration Sunday night in the McCall household? That would be awesome. So, look, that at the moment, with 15 minutes to go, they're well on their way to achieving that. But Charles Wilkin is less than a second off the back of Morgan, as we can see visually right there. So he's going to be keeping Morgan very honest. And any little mistake, we saw that with these chicanes, because you're carrying so much speed, it's a fast and flowing nature. It's very easy to run in a little bit too hot, and you end up finding yourself quite deep. And you can't get the car rotated properly, so you're waiting before you get on the power, and then you get nailed. And it's very easy to do that around Imola. So that's the sort of pressure that Charles is putting on Morgan, and hoping that he'll kind of make one of those mistakes. But what I love as well, you're talking about seeing the different cars and the performing, and I think what we've got now with ATK bringing the success balance, I think it's crucial, because if there is a car that seems to be a bit of a runaway car, you can restrict that in terms of putting in our own regulations, because unfortunately, such a course is never ever going to have a balance of performance that works as well as it does in its Continental GT Challenge. You can't have the Porsche that was great last year now suddenly being a car that no one wants to touch this year. So that is also an issue for me, because they need to kind of regulate that all of the cars remain cars that you're happy to drive. That you don't want to say, listen, that is sitting in my dead garage, not in my fantasy garage. So, but at least with us putting this in place, I think we're going to ensure that the racing remains really lively throughout the season. Kieran Patterson dropping off the back of Daniel now. Why? Because he's got his mirrors full of Heineke in the other Bentley. So teammates look like with their livery, definitely teammates putting each other under pressure there. No team orders, clearly. but this is what we love, and it gives Daniel a chance just to really focus on Ferrari up front. But I want to say Grobler's been amazing, eh? He really has
been fantastic.
Wheel wrong. Very good.
Not a wheel wrong in 7th position, and this is really where all the battles are taking place. We've got 7th position Grobler, we've got Daniel Rowe. Oh, Daniel Rowe in 8th there with Heineke and Patterson almost collecting each other there through the final turn. Look at that, look at how loose that Bentley is. And the thing is, right, this is now 13 minutes to go. Are we going to see we always say this, but are we going to see the Bentleys getting a bit loosey-goosey there? Charles doing very well in the Bentley there. Ryan Beddington-Smith in the comments mentioning Charles Wilken in 4th position. But this is the battle to watch going through to the finish, as Kieran Patterson still holding off Heineke. De Nobrega doing well there in 11th position. I'm sure he's going to want a top 10 finish, with top 10 just about in sight, as Jay Grobler does well to lead the pack over here.
It was so cool. I mean, it's exactly that. That's a proper downhill run to Ravazza, which is the heaviest braking point on the circuit, and so easy just to miss your braking marker. Oh, and he's gone and put a spin in there as well. So again, there we go, over rotating the car, trying to get on the power too early. The car's not settled, and there he's gone and lost a whole bunch of positions. But we saw Heineke making that little mistake, out braking himself, losing the tail of Patterson. Now he's gone and made a big mistake there as well, and losing 2 or 3 positions. So Nobrega now will be in the top 10 as you predicted, where he wanted to be right in front of him, and it was gifted to him. But yeah, interesting to see, not much movement here. You know, Charles Wilken is kind of staying. He's got a little bit closer. It was 0.7, it's now down to 0.4. But yeah, it's coming up to the 10-minute mark now. So I don't know what is left. There shouldn't be any tyre issues now if the guys have done these compulsory stops. It'll be very interesting to see if any cars are going to kind of have drop off. We used to see it last year. The 10-minute was like the twilight zone, where anything that could happen usually did. But I don't think we're going to have that this season.
Well, it's a bit too soon to tell. At least no pit stops at this stage. All the pit stops are pretty much done, with Charles Wilken now in 4th position. That is really one of the big... this is a pivotal moment right here. Charles Wilken and Morgan McCall, both of them want that 3rd place finish, a massive psychological advantage going into the next round. But also, just you want to get that podium, you want to get that trophy, you want to pop that champagne, and Charles Wilken pretty much had it in the bag up until that pit stop. The guys are talking about the fact that if you run manual pit stop, and I remember this now, I haven't played Assetto since last season. I'm going to jump in again this week and dust off the cobwebs, but I do remember that the manual pit stop was faster, and it seems to be 1.5 seconds faster if you can get it right. So you stop and start the engine yourself, you do all those things manually, but if you mess something up, it's a big problem. For example, if you run a second gear through the pit lane, sometimes you're able to go faster on certain circuits. So there's so many different manual options. As you look at Jordan Shedder just rotating that car, I mean, he's so far ahead, but still absolutely on it. As we watch him now go on board across the start-finish line, Jordan Shedder with 10 minutes to go, crosses the line there, does a 1:49, looks like it, 1:49.2 there, looks like it, and let me just have a closer look. That's a 1:48.2 looks like, sorry, 1:40.2, and Jordan Shedder in the 1st position, still running a very, very solid pace there. Junior McCall in 2nd, Morgan McCall in 3rd, Charles Wilken.
It's crazy. He qualified with a 39.7, and in race trim he's running 40.2. So that's incredibly consistent running. And it's just, he's got this car and the track dialed in perfectly. I mean, that's what you love to see. If you walked in here now and you were watching my screen, you would think, geez, what motor racing is this? Yeah. Because the guy is, the car doesn't look like it's tracking like, when you say in inverted commas, a game. It's being pinpoint positioned. It's right in the curb. He's using every little bit of the track that he's allowed to. Really fantastic driving. And we saw this last year with Jordan. I mean, he really just got ankle tapped by some irritating technical problems. Otherwise, I think him and Zaire would have gone down to the wire for the championship. So Zaire not here this year, so literally it's all Jordans to play for. But we have seen the whole pack is bunched up. The guys are really, really hungry to be crowned as ATK Pro Series champions for this year. 6 amazing rounds, and this is the first one at Imola, and it's been a great race.
It's been a great race. Not much incidents, thankfully, but I think also that's got to do with, number one, the experience that the guys picked up last year. I mean, buy that experience. You can't, you've got to get that experience. You've got to get seat time. And again, I'm chatting to the guys here. There's a couple of tricks and things that have been updated that I haven't touched on recently because I haven't been playing the game as much. And certainly want to get back on it to find those tricks. And that's how you get to this level. And these guys show that they've got a season of competitive racing behind them. So we get this kind of racing where there's not that many incidents, there's not that many things going wrong, but at the same time, you've got the new guys coming into the mix. They're racing against guys that have got experience and they have got the racecraft. So it's interesting to see that some of the new guys that were fast are not able to maintain during the race. Even Daniel Rowe, one of the fastest guys of the new lot, in 8th position there, doing well, but we've still got a bunch of familiar names in the top 7.
Yeah, look, I mean, again, he's a prime example of, I think he lost 3 positions by pitting when he did. Have a look who was right on his tail behind him was Brian Lewis, down in 16th. So then you realize, well, Daniel's actually done pretty well considering that very, very early pit stop to still be in the top 10. But yeah, I mean, he's kind of sacrificed a couple of positions. Leslie Oliphant has been a big gainer in the pit stops. Jason pretty much where he was around about 3rd and 4th at that stage. So Morgan McCall is our big winner in the pit stops because he's found himself in the podium position. And Charles Wilkin doesn't seem to be able to do too much. But a fantastic lineup of new drivers, guys we've seen last year. I didn't get to watch the Pro-Am race, so I'm very keen to see which guys are going to be in with a qualifying run for our next round when we go to one of the greatest racetracks ever made, Spa-Francorchamps, on the 11th of April, because our top 3 from the Pro-Am will get a chance to obviously qualifying race in the Pro-Am. So that's going to be very, very interesting to see. And at the moment, our guys that are at the bottom, we've got Sean Straden, Benjamin Lodger. We know how good he was. He's kind of stuck with the Porsche. Last year, he was kind of top 10 running. So maybe that's testimony to that this Porsche now really isn't the car to be in. Corne Strauss, the guy that was in the McLaren last year, he switched to the Merc. And obviously, just doesn't have the pace because he was doing very well in that McLaren, also mid-pack round. Great on do it action with Brian Lewis, looking at the back of Bruno Cadile, who has also made that switch to the McLaren. Nice looking car, but he certainly seemed to be performing a lot better in his work last year with Bruno.
Indeed. As we go on board with this 3-way battle here, we've got Bruno Cadile, we've got Lewis and Deploy in the mist car. Probably one of the best looking cars yet today. Down the inside, will he go? No, Cadile to experience there. Having said that, Cadile, man, I'm so disappointed in some of the guys that I think he would have done better in a Merc. I think he would have done better in a Merc. Currently running in 15th position. In the chat here, the guys are saying that JC Krobler was doing well, and he is doing well. He's going to finish the race. They're also saying that Stradom was doing much better early on and now has dropped all the way down to 25th position. Oh, what a pity. What a pity as we go.
Sean was also running around about 15th and 16th, and then obviously on the pit stop. But like a lot of guys were saying, the Honda they don't think is a great car from a race perspective. Daniel making a little bit of a mistake through one of the chicanes and giving Kieran Patterson a proper sniff at him there. But Daniel obviously having that inside line and just blocking that line perfectly. But he's going to be compromising the drive out here. But good to see Kieran putting some serious pressure on Daniel Rowe there. Daniel will be frustrated with that because he's lost a lot of ground to Corbler in the Ferrari up ahead. But great racing action wherever we look at this stage. So super cool. Yeah, listen, I think there's a lot of strategy with Bruno obviously racing as part of the White Rabbit Gaming with Jason Abshire, Jason in the Merc, Bruno in the McLaren. So remember, Bruno can then say, right, midway through, go back to the Merc. So I think they're kind of also hedging their bets.
Yeah.
Very cool. Some of that strategy we spoke about pre-season.
It does seem to look like the Bentley's not quite as good over those bumps. I see the car hopping and jumping over the bumps over here, and the Mercedes basically just coasting over those bumps here. And now Charles Wilkin settling into 4th position. Jason Abshire 3 seconds down in 5th position. We got the last 4 minutes. The last 4 minutes of racing left. Arno Visaki in the McLaren making up 11th position. Gunnabriga making up the top 10 right in front of him in that stunning looking Merc over there. And Gunnabriga, one of the new names, at least here for the Pro Series, but a fairly experienced sim racer. I've seen his name pop up in a few series over the last couple of years. Gunnabriga in 10th position. with Arne Versace right behind him, and right behind that is Heineke. So these guys, I mean, for us here, we're looking at this racing going, things have settled. But for these guys, they've got cars in front of them all around, so the opportunity still exists to jump up a few positions.
Big time, and what I'm really keen to see is what's going to happen now. I'm sort of looking at guys like Charles and going, I'm happy with fourth because getting any success, Ballast and Hannah man. And I imagine the Bentleys, I don't know now from Spa, because I know Bentley, they say, might not have the top end either, because you need some real top end run at Spa. But I mean, the guys are going to start thinking about that. Suddenly fourth might not be such a bad position for Charles to find himself in.
Fourth certainly is not a bad position. I'm just finishing my sip of water there. Fourth position, certainly not a bad position there for Charles. And he's going to be happy with that.
It's a great battle. This. I mean, Lewis was so racy early on, lost his way a bit, but he's all over the back of Bruno, who is himself, Brian, getting pushed right big time by Deploy. So that's what we love to see, like 2 minutes to go, and there are battles right the way through. And this is probably one of the spiciest ones. The other obviously being Patterson and Daniel Rowe. So look at them all shifting under braking.
That was the close Deploy over there, getting right up with the back bumper, but still keeping it clean, Still keeping it very clean. Deploy hard on the brakes here. The car, when you're on maximum brakes and the car is still moving towards the car in front, that's kind of what happened to Deploy there, but he still managed to maintain. And now, once again, getting right over the back of Kadile, or at least of...
Good drive. He had amazing. He carried so much more speed through that.
So much more.
Got great drive out of there. So that Bentley looks really well set up coming out of those corners. And also might just be his approach, in terms of the speed that he's able to carry through there. So, Brian certainly was struggling on that. So this will be exciting for the pro, because he says, but I've got a real chance here. So, it's one position, but every position counts. There's points to be scored,
Every position counts. We currently have, in this battle, Bruno Kadile in the McLaren. Let's get that right. Behind that, we got Lewis in the Mercedes-Benz. The Bentley of Deploy now, all over the back of Lewis.
What's the drive here? So Brian, so you see what happens. Deploy comes in the power just a little bit too early, because he knows that Brian's gone defensive, so he's going to be compromising the drive out. And what happens? You tell yourself, don't, just hold, but you get so amped, you jump on that accelerator a little bit too early, and look how loose the Bentley got. So that really messed things up for him.
Lewis now, and Bruno Kadile on board now with Lewis as they make their way down the main straight. They're going to want to hug that wall there, but no, Kadile stays away. Lewis in his slipstream though. They make their way into the first corner. What's going to happen? 44 seconds of racing to go. The McLaren doesn't seem that fast in the straight. The Mercedes does seem to have an advantage going into the first corner here. The White Rabbit Gaming car so wide. Beautiful line from the McLaren. Maintains position. And a bit of a twitch there from the Mercedes, and off goes Kadile once again to maintain that position. I'm hearing there's a battle happening in 7th position as well.
Yeah, that'll be Daniel Rowe then. But you see, look at this. This is the exact same place that he made a mistake last time, Lewis, and that gave a chance to deploy again. So watch the drive that he gets out of that corner. But that's the problem here, because you put your car in the right position like Bruno did, very, very difficult to get past, So Bruno, a man with massive experience, he has that battle we were talking about for 7th, 8th, 9th. Look, Deploy is sorted in 7th, so this really is a battle for 8th. And Daniel Rowe taking a lot of curb on the way in. And getting speed. Have a look at this. Denobigo getting a chance to go around the outside. That is brilliant driving. So both Bentley drivers falling over each other, taking a little bit of curb there, and that really cost Kieran Patterson. So he's going to be gutted about that, because that seemed Denobigo. He's got to run.
Look at that. Oh no, Denobigo makes a mistake. Punches the air in frustration, I'm sure, and now he's back in the race again. He's going to try and go down the inside here.
No, that's the race, so that's the flag. So he's gone on the last corner, he's gone and lost his position. As he beat him, he might have got him. He actually might have out-dragged him to that line. So this is onto their last lap. It says race is over, but obviously Watson and Jordan Sherritt in the lead has gone and put this as the last lap. So that is going to be a battle to watch. Hello, Jordan. We haven't seen much of you because you've been an absolute superstar and run away with it. So that's going to be our winner, no doubt. But that is a battle I want to go back to, because it's an absolute cracker.
Absolute cracker. Jordan Sherritt in first place. We know bar any catastrophic incident, he should be fine. But I'd love to see that 7th place battle or 8th place battle between De Nobrega and Patterson once again. Claessen's apparently got disconnected. And here comes Jordan Shedder across the finish line, gets the checkered flag, takes the position, flashes the lights. Jordan Shedder in first position. That is your first position, man, as we go.
Here's
Here's the battle. Oh, look at that. We've got a Bentley.
Now a couple of other people have got stuck in here. So Tariq Adam is involved in that as well. So Daniel Rose run away with it now, but have a look. De Nobrega has actually got past Kieran Patterson again. So that's been settled. So you'll be happy about that. Tariq Adams just behind that. And then there's another Bentley, which I think is Heineken. So that's Versace again. I keep getting it wrong. So that's not Tariq Adams. It's Versace in the McLaren.
So Bentley has a look down the inside. Give the McLaren a big nudge there. Let's him by.
Well done. Well done. Now that is when, but that's when you realize, listen, loss of brain for a moment there, but let me give that position back. So nice to see that as well. Guys have done well, eh? Kept it very tidy.
Guys have done very well. I hear there's more battles happening down the grid in P18. Oh, here we go. This is the one. Missed car in front. That's Bruno Cadile in front there. In the McLaren as they go towards the finish line. The Bentley right on the back of that McLaren. The McLaren gets it. Bentley second. Mercedes flashy. These guys are happy. What a battle. Wow. They look like they were happy with that one.
Remember Deploy was stuck behind.
Another close race there, but I think Jason Webb did snatch it there. Jason Webb snatched it. Craig Eckert getting a penalty earlier on. So the battle's happening all the way down the field there. What a race. We'll be right back after this with the official results. Stay tuned for the Mercedes-Benz ATK Pro Series. Shedder in first place. You've got Junior McCall and Morgan McCall second and third, and this must be an historic moment for sure. A historic moment for these two guys. Obviously, the winner, Jordan Shedder, a fantastic drive from him. I cannot wait to see him with some ballast. But certainly this all ATK 1, 2, 3. That in itself a moment, but certainly then for the McCall family, a huge moment for the McCall family, both second and third for the McCall brothers. An unbelievable performance by all three of these drivers. I didn't think Morgan would get that third. I thought for sure Charles Wilkin would be the guy in third position. He did well though to get fourth, but it's all about the top three. And in third, Morgan McCall, Junior McCall, and Jordan Shedder in the top spot. Unbelievable stuff.
Yeah, listen, congratulations. Big parties at the McCall household tonight. But again, that for me was just testimony of us bringing some new changes to how the ATK Pro Series runs, like the pit stop, because the big benefit there was Morgan McCall. He was battling down in fifth and timed his pit stop and did really well there. So that worked out unbelievably well for him. Got himself onto the podium, leapfrogging a couple of guys. So that's brilliant. So yeah, I'm trying to find out exactly what the weight penalties are, but the top five from today's race will get ballast. So I was talking about top 3 in my head, but that means that Charles Wilkin will have success ballast. Or Daniel Rose just messaged me, big smiles. He doesn't have any ballast for Spa because he's outside the top 5. So that is already, you see how competitive the guys are. They're starting to consider these sort of things going ahead. But listen, a man in a class of his own today was Jordan Sherritt, the only guy to dip into the 39s in qualifying and literally ran away with it. So brilliant driving. Nice to be able to have a technologically unchallenged race for Jordan Sherritt. So is this how it's going to be for him for the rest of the season? I think it's going to get difficult with the ballast that's going to be added for the next round.
Yeah, ballast confirmed at 80 kilos for the winner, 60 for second place, third place gets 50, fourth gets 40, and fifth 30 kilograms. So 80 kilos is a lot of ballast for a winner. It's a lot of ballast. He's going to feel that.
Ernest, remember when we chatted to Jonathan Bence about that, and he just said they really couldn't feel much difference to the car. It was only when they really lumbered a lot of success ballast in that there was actually some punishing effects.
Yes.
So, I mean, normally we would be whinging if we had to add 10 or 15 kilograms, you know, so 80 is plenty. But I suppose in a set of Corsa, you've got to find that sweet spot where there is actually going to be some struggle for the guy in terms of handling and tire wear and that type of thing. So that is a lot of weight. So I think things are going to change up big time. It is going to be a cracking season because I'm just already starting to think, geez, like, that's going to punish him, you know. And look, maybe it'll be okay around Spa. He's going to feel it straight line. But when you get into circuits like Brands Hatch and those type of places, man, you don't want to be running. You want to be running lean. You don't want to be running weight.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, as we go into round 2, Spa-Francorchamps, I mean, imagine going through on the uphill section, onto the uphill kilograms. Yeah, that's a lot of kilograms to be carrying. But like we said, the research has been done. Jono did the testing. And unfortunately, he's not with us today. I would have really liked for him to be with us to give us some technical insight. We'll try and get him back in later on. But that 80 kilos, I think Jordan's going to feel that. And I, for one, am very much excited to see how that affects the outcome of the next race. Junior McCall, though, my driver of the day for sure. He kept it clean. And he is maturing right in front of our very eyes. We are seeing how this guy is evolving. And it's happening live and in person for all of us, for the world to see, really.
Ernest, I echo what you said there. Really, really good. To think that 12-year-old we saw last year, he was a really good driver, got himself a little bit rattled in a couple of races when he was mixing it with the big boys and he moved up to pros. But this was a proper pro drive today. Qualified in second, finished in second, no incidents, running really good pace. So that was brilliant. But just for me, a massive shout out to all of the drivers because we just haven't seen incident. For the first race of the season, remember how much stuff we were having to deal with. So I think Monday night, tomorrow, our incident report is more going to be applauding guys. Like we saw that incident right at the end, outbraking himself, tapping the car, going, flip, sorry, I'm giving your position back. So that for me is crucial. The guys have learned after a fantastic season last year, and they are coming to this season as better, more experienced, more level-headed professional drivers, and that is what we want. This is real. This isn't a game.
Yeah, no, this is the real deal right here. I'm looking at the list as we go further down. You've got some interesting names making up the mid-pack there. Bruno Cadile finishing in 14th. Kieran Patterson, he's going to be happy with the top 10 position. Jason Webb, unfortunately, all the way down in 18th. And Benjamin Lodger in 23rd. Strydom in the Honda in last position. I mean, I did not see that coming at all with Strydom being so far down the grid, but certainly the top 5 looking amazing with Jason Abschmeyer in 5th place. Leslie Oliphant just missing out on that 5th place with 6th. Charles Wilkin in 4th. And of course, the familiar podium there with the McCall brothers in 2nd and 3rd position. Just an incredible race that we've seen so far. And here are the points now. Jordan Sherritt with maximum points, 100 points. That must look oh so sweet. A top 3 podium for Mercedes and top 3 podium for ATK team as well. So a successful outing for Team ATK, but lots of drivers hot on the heels. And I think things are going to get shuffled a little bit as we go into the second round.
Well, you know what's interesting? I've just picked up now from Jonathan that apparently there's also a bonus point for fastest lap and pole. So that's 2 extra points that will go the way of Jordan Sherritt. So those things come into it as well. Because if you ever look, there's not like big jumps where first place is 10 points and second place you only get whatever 5, and the points are very close. So have a look. There's 1 point difference from like 4 all the way down. So for me, it's going to be very interesting when you're carrying the success ballast, like now, to score these bonus points, if you like, with fastest lap in the race. I mean, that again incentivizes guys. But like you said, things are going to be mixed up because our bottom 3, we're not going to see them in Spa when we get there on the 11th of April, because they've now dropped down to Pro-Am. So our top 3 from Pro-Am are going to be battling it out in the Pro. So that for me is super exciting. But yeah, this was a good race. I mean, I love the old circuits. Yeah, guys are saying not great for overtaking, but it's a real technical circuit. I think every single one of the drivers will feel like they've really had a proper workout because there's not much margin for error.
Not much margin for error at all. And I think a lot of the circuits this year are going to provide that kind of spectacle where the drivers cannot make any mistakes. The ATK Mercedes-Benz Pro Series certainly is looking to hype this, the sport up. Let's call it that. Things are going to go to the next level, I think, over the next couple of months. It already has leveled up over lockdown and post-lockdown. But certainly now, I think things are going to be all to play for. We knew that Jordan Sherritt would have pace. I think a lot of the other drivers were also watching to see if he would have that race pace and what it would look like. But now the next question is, what is it going to look like with him running all that ballast and the top 5 guys running that ballast as well? We've got Jonathan Bentz in the commentary booth with us at the moment. I wonder if he's available for comment. Jonathan, just to get clear on the relegation, I was checking out the rule set now. Is the relegation, that is based on pre-qualifying, if I'm not mistaken?
Correct. So it's based on what happened in the 15 minutes before this race. So the results being that we can't say the bottom 5 are the guys that automatically get booted down, but what it's going to be, drivers will be relegated based on a series of what would you call that? In order of preference, should I say? Starting with guys that don't show up. If anybody rage quits. If they don't show up for the race, or if they have excused themselves from more than one race, those guys will be dropped first and then followed by the bottom qualifiers.
I like that system. I like that system because, as you're saying, earlier on, I read earlier on that one of the reasons we don't do it during the race is because anything can happen and someone gets punted out during a race. So it's the pre-qualifying, just to confirm that it's pre-qualifying and a bunch of other factors that'll see you get relegated. And hopefully we then see some fresh blood injected into the bottom of the pack from the Pro-Am series, and that's what it's all about. I mean, for all we know, there could be some top guys in the Pro-Am series that just missed out an opportunity to give Jordan Sherritt a run for his money.
The top 5 drivers in Pro-Am today are looking very close together and well matched. And I think they would actually have given some of these pro guys a bit of a run today.
Certainly.
Just a quick one. So that's success ballast. So the 80 kilograms that Jordan gets stays within the whole season, or does it reset after every race based on results?
It'll reset each race. So it's not accumulated ballast. It is literally just for the single round. And it may feel like a really large number that we're throwing out there, but success ballast needs to hurt. For lack of a better word.
I get that.
Of course, but I mean, it's quite interesting that you're doing it a bit differently, because like in the series that we've raced, your ballast is accumulated, so they don't hit you with 80 kilograms, so you start with like 15 or whatever it might be, and that's kind of what you start working with for the season. And then it's but I mean, I like this because basically it's going to be a tough round for the top 5 at the next race. It really is. And at the end it balances it out.
To clarify the idea behind it, I mean, as a race organizer, we're trying to keep drivers motivated and in it for longer, because I mean, there's such a big prize at the end for these guys that we need to find ways to keep drivers motivated, happy, and tasting success for the entire season. So it's no good you finish out of the top 10 in a couple races and you just think, oh well, what's the point of racing? So we've implemented the success ballast to help with that. Also, after round 3, guys who maybe feel they're handicapped with their car choice have a chance to change that. So implementing a few ideas just to keep things.
But the pit stop was awesome too, because you saw a lot of guys here going, listen, difficult circuit to overtake. Let me pit early because I feel like I'm being bogged down. Worked for some, didn't work for others. Just to clarify, so what on average is it a set like 30 seconds, or does it change from circuit to circuit?
For the pit stops, no. It is the only requirement that the drivers have to complete in a pit stop is a tire change. So if they want to run full fuel all the way to the end of the race, that's 100% perfect. But they have to change tires in their pit stop, and that is just to prevent drivers from coming in, putting in 1 liter of fuel, and going out again as their mandatory stop. So we want the pit stops to be more of a strategic element in the race. And we saw a few guys losing positions based on pit stops, and that's exactly what we wanted to see. We wanted to see the drivers knock it all out.
I see the strategy, but what I'm trying to understand is what is, like, in Formula One, on average, the guys are doing a pit stop in 2 seconds, and it's so long in, so the guys know the cumulative time they're working out. Does the pit stop to change 4 tires, is it a set time from circuit to circuit? How do the guys know what that is? Would they go and time that themselves, running simulators, so they end up knowing when they get to the race, this is going to cost them 30 seconds at this track, 25 seconds at that track, so they can sit and work it out?
Yeah, they won't do that because everybody's in the same boat. It's.
But they're not in the same boat. That's my point. What I'm getting at is, I need to know, if I pit now, if I'm sitting lap 7 and I'm going, I can't get past this guy, difficult track to overtake. If I pit now, there's a window that I can slot into that'll give me clean air. I mean, that's how these guys will now start thinking, because there's definitely pit stop strategy.
Well, I think we're gonna have to discuss the pit stop strategy tomorrow in the review, because we've got to finish things off. We've got to move on to our preview of the next round, Spa-Francorchamps. I know you love this circuit, Marius. It's a driver circuit.
Every driver in the world.
In the
one
true
of the greatest
sense.
circuits, and man,
what a driver
is.
circuit.
Every single circuit we're going to this year is literally old school, fantastic tracks. It's none of this computer-generated nonsense. So I'm really happy to see us going to Spa. Nice that we're going there so early on, because it's a proper challenge. So it's really going to require super concentration for 50 minutes from the guys. It's going to be interesting with the success ballast and the pit stops. There's a lot to discuss, and looking forward to the next round, beginning of April, I think 11th of April. But it's also our incident report tomorrow with Jonathan. And we've got our Gran Turismo Sport round.
Yes.
That's a big first for the ATK Pro Series, so excited for that as well.
Yeah, that's all happening tomorrow. Of course, the ATK Pro Series brought to you by Mercedes-Benz, Kyalami 9 Hour and Motorsport South Africa, making it the official and only official motorsport event of its kind in South Africa. And what a privilege to be part of this. What a fantastic bunch of racing today. Marius, final words from you, driver of the day, and some final words on what we saw unfold today.
Krobler, well done. To see a Ferrari in there when I'm looking through a list of 1, 2, 3 for Mercedes-Benz, it's pretty much great timing for them as sponsor, but that's kind of what we saw last year with 1, 2, 3 Porsches. So Krobler in that Ferrari, the lone Ferrari, really brilliantly driven throughout. I liked what you said about Julian McCall as a standout drive for him. That was brilliant. And I also thought Morgan McCall, made use of some good pit stop strategy there and leapfrogged 2 or 3 positions to find himself on the podium. That for me was great. But for me, I think it's drivers of the day.
Yes.
Because I think everybody really performed like professional racing drivers today. There are lots of chicanes. There's lots of opportunities to fall over each other. And the guys gave each other space. They raced like true racing drivers. And I'm super stoked to start a new season with that quality of driving.
Oh, what a way to end things off. Well said, Marius. I'm very happy to see this level of professionalism from the drivers. And we look forward to the next round of the ATK Mercedes-Benz Pro Series at Spa. I hope to see all of you guys. Then stay tuned for all the action. And let's stay tuned to see if Jordan Shedid is beatable and who will be taking that top spot. My name is Ernest Page, joined by Marius Roberts, Jonathan Bentz, and the rest of the team. From all of us here at ATK Mercedes-Benz Pro Series, we'll see you guys at round 2.
I'ma keep it going till there ain't nothing left. Going till there ain't nothing left.